Let's kick things off with a statement that might just flip everything you think you know about mental health completely on its head. Just for a moment, forget the whole idea of a normal brain and consider this. What if what we call neurotypical is actually an adaptation to a broken world?
So, with that bombshell, let's dive in. We're about to explore a pretty radical idea called the wild-type mind. And trust me, this isn't just about changing a few labels. We're talking about fundamentally redrawing our entire map of the human mind. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the way things are now, the standard diagnosis. Then, we're going to do a complete 180 on that idea. We'll trace the incredible evolutionary story of wild versus domesticated minds, we'll learn a whole new language for consciousness, and finally, we'll see why this makes neurodivergent people, well, the canaries in our collective coal mine.
All right, first things first. Let's ground ourselves in the familiar. For over 100 years, modern psychiatry has been built on a single core assumption about how the human mind is supposed to work.
And that premise is pretty simple, right? It's that there's a healthy neurotypical baseline, and any deviation from it, we're talking autism, ADHD, dyslexia, is seen as an impairment, a deficit, or a dysfunction. This is the model that has shaped every single diagnostic manual and treatment plan we have. But what if that whole foundation is flawed?
That very question brings us right to the heart of this explainer, the foundational inversion. It's time to take that old map of the mind and turn it completely upside down.
Here it is, the big, paradigm-shifting question. What if neurodivergent cognition isn't an aberration at all, but is actually the original ancestral wild type of human neurology, perfectly adapted for a complex natural world? And what if neurotypicality is a more recent, domesticated adaptation that simply allows us to survive in environments that are, frankly, pathological?
You see how this just changes the entire problem? We stop asking that old question, how do we fix neurodivergent people to fit in? And we start asking the real question, how do we fix the pathological environments that only a domesticated mind can tolerate?
Now, to really understand this, we need to look at our own evolutionary story. I mean, this isn't some recent development. It's a process that's been unfolding for thousands and thousands of years.
Just think, over the last 10,000 years, from the dawn of agriculture right through the industrial and digital ages, our societies have created this immense, constant pressure. We've been selecting for cognitive traits that can tolerate repetition, hierarchy, sensory chaos, and a profound disconnection from nature. This is what caused the cognitive shift.
And this is where the reframe gets really interesting. In an ancestral world, these things we called disorders weren't disorders at all. They were basically superpowers. Autistic pattern matching? Perfect for tracking ecosystems. ADHD's novelty seeking? Absolutely vital for spotting threats. Dyslexic visual spatial thinking? That was the engine of tool-making. It wasn't dysfunction. It was a coherent, brilliant, cognitive ecosystem.
Now, this whole inversion thing isn't just a nice philosophical idea. It's actually backed by a formal framework, a whole new language for describing the physics of consciousness itself.
It's called Recognition Field Dynamics, or RFD. And the key idea here is that consciousness isn't just something locked up inside your skull. No, it's a relational field that emerges from the constant interaction between your awareness and your environment.
RFD actually gives us a way to think about resilience. Now, forget the math for a second, and just focus on the balance. A mind's resilience depends on two things: the support it gets from its environment and its own self-awareness. But here's the key. It is incredibly sensitive to disruption. Even a small increase in environmental chaos or stress can have a massive negative impact, throwing the whole system completely out of whack.
And this table here, it shows us the trade-off perfectly. The wild-type mind is highly sensitive and deeply reflective, but, and this is a big but, it needs a supportive, coherent environment to thrive. The domesticated mind, on the other hand, survives by dampening that sensitivity and lowering its need for support, which is what allows it to tolerate a chaotic office or a repetitive job.
So what does all this mean? In this final section, we get to the profound conclusion about what neurodivergent distress is really telling all of us. It's time to find the signal in the noise.
This is the crucial point. When a wild-type mind experiences burnout or anxiety, it is not a sign of failure. It is an accurate signal. The nervous system isn't broken, it's working perfectly, telling us that the environment, the job, the culture, the system is what's truly pathological.
And this leads us to the ultimate paradigm shift.
A simple two-step change in our thinking. First, we have to stop asking why neurodivergent people are failing to function. And second, we must start asking why our society has become so pathological that it requires a dampened, domesticated mind to function within it at all.
And this brings us to a powerful, crystallizing metaphor. Trying to fix neurodivergent distress is like medicating canaries to tolerate toxic fumes, just so the miners can keep working in a deadly mine. The distress isn't the problem, it's the alarm bell.
And so, we end with this question to carry with you. What if neurodivergence isn't a disorder to be cured, but is instead a living memory? A memory of a more coherent way of being, a connection to the ecological and relational patterns that our domesticated world has forced us to forget. What does that memory mean for our future?